You are now listening to 15 Minutes of Fame Radio.
Let's go!
15 minutes of Fame Radio.
We're now stepping into 15 Minutes of Fame Radio. Yeah.
So, Jin, tell us, what does it feel like to be referred to as the Asian Eminem? And I was like, it's better than being referred to as the yellow Eminem. Y'all seen the commercial? They always make the yellow one look like an idiot. It blows my mind that to this day, people still remember that. You know, like, they're like, Jimmy, right? People are like, oh my gosh, I loved you in Fast, Too Furious. I know all your lines. I'm like, all three of them?
Now, speaking of like your life being attached to battle rap,
Yeah.
you know, my start actually with you was 106.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was a huge 106. I was a huge Poster Boy fan.
Oh, shout out to Poster. First
So-
one. Like first kind
Exactly.
of retired Hall of Fame. You know, he that's his title forever. You know, first person to run through it like that.
But you know, I think you're shortchanging yourself because you know Poster Boy.
I followed him.
He was the first.
Yes.
But you were like the first, bro. I'll never forget the day when you pulled that Ruff
The R
Ryders
chain?
out.
Yeah, oh, man.
And like at first I was like, what? Like Jim part of Ruff Ryders, but
yeah.
the biggest thing was that like, yo, you brought, you know, 106 to a point, you know, no disrespect to Poster Boy,
Yeah.
but I think you really brought like a different dynamic
I feel you. No, I get
to
what you're saying.
106.
I get what
And,
you're saying.
you know, when you signed to a real record label,
Yeah.
I think people said, holy shit, like battle rap is something now.
Yeah.
You know what I
get
mean?
you're
Like,
saying.
I
get
think
what
like
you're saying.
people look down on it a little bit. It was
Yeah.
raw, but you know, with you, like, you know, can you talk a little bit about like
Absolutely.
your upbringing of 106 and, you know, that whole situation, how it changed your life as far as...
Oh man, yo, I think if there's three things that I can kind of like say, what are the three things so far in your? I'm 37 this year, right? But in your close to 40 years on Earth, what would be the three things, Jen, that you say have really shifted your whole, you know, just whole story? So off top, you know, finding my faith, right? We can get into that.
Let's
but
definitely get into that.
Finding my faith is off top one. Second, becoming a family man. So when I say becoming a family man, I mean becoming a husband, having kids. And the third thing, Freestyle Friday. Yeah. Now, under Freestyle Friday, that includes a lot, right? It's the Freestyle Friday that opened the door to Ruff Ryders in this case. But just to put a little bit of back context on it, yeah, I was pretty much the same as everyone else during that era. 106 in Park was the jam. You know, BET as a whole was the jam. You know, Rap City, The Basement with Tigger. I mean, even before Tigger, when it was Joe Claire. And even Cedar's World, Mad Random. Remember that one show where it was like a girl? It was like an animation, but she would be like talking and like they would play videos. Cedar's World. So I'm from that era. You know, 15, 16, 17-year-old Jen. We used to study 106 in Park and BET programs just because that's the world we want to get into, right? Like we want to get signed. We want to be on Rockefeller. We want to either get picked up by Neptunes or we want to meet in with Interscope or we want to link up with, you know, Cash Money. And in this case, Double R. Like, I don't think anybody would have questioned signing with Double R at the time. And for me, I've shared a bit about this kind of in various settings, but I think at the time, it was twofold. Number one, it wasn't really a lot of labels that was not like there was labels that was like reaching out, but that were really legitimately like, yo, we really are excited about you. There weren't really that many off top. But then on top of that, within the ones that were knocking on the door and extending like not necessarily an offer, but like outreach, to me it was a no-brainer that Double R would be the one that we go with, you know. On top of the fact that they was just mad like aggressive isn't even the word, but they were mad proactive about reaching out, and to me, I think it said a lot that by week 3 or 4, they were already pretty much like, take a look at this. If it looks good, let's lock this down. Because for me, I think there was that whole notion of like they don't know how far I'm going to push the Freestyle Friday thing too. Because I think as much excitement and momentum as there was, there was moments where, it could have went the other way. Whether it was week 5, week 6, little stumbles. Like, I didn't choke, but there was definitely moments where, like, it could have went either way, right? And to me, by week 3 or 4, with them saying, either way. No, number one, Jin, we think you're going to go all the way to the 7. And even the whole vision of, like, after you get retired into the Hall of Fame, that's when we'll announce that you signed with us, like you said, and pull out the chain. We kind of collectively spoke that into life. You know what I mean? Because there was no guarantee that was going to be the thing. But we all saw how dope that would have been if that was the case. And lo and behold, that's how it unfolded. And then, and this is a great way to tie into the 15 minutes of fame thing, because even till right now, as we're approaching the year 2020, I hear a lot of different opinions about kind of my decision to sign with the R. Overall, it is like, it was monumental. Like you said, Jin, how dope must that have been for you? You know, growing up as a Ruff Ryder fan, signing with the R, and being part of that legacy, without a doubt. But then there are people that are like, I don't know if that was the place for you, Jin. Math even said it. It was interesting the way he positioned it. When I was up at the barbershop with them, he was like, you know what you would have been, Jin, or you should have been with the R, whether it was the R or anywhere else, but let's say it was at the R, you should have been like the Kanye West there. You know what I mean? Came with your backpack, and you could have brought that vibe and element to it. But I don't know, like, this is from his perspective. I don't know if it was when you went there, they tried to alter you to fit in more in the scope of the R, or if you felt you needed to. And then the only thing I can answer to whether it was Math or anyone in general who has that perspective is that I think the reality is 22, 23-year-old Jin, which is how old I was at the time, I was still figuring myself out. You know what I mean? So the only thing I knew at the time was like, shit, I'm here. You know what I mean? Like this childhood dream of, to describe it more naively, this childhood dream of becoming a rap star essentially came to life, right? Yeah. Whether it was the money, the females, the cars, the all of that. Like, I didn't sound like $1 million deal, but when you go from slanging $5 mixtapes on the street every day, trying to sell 10 or 15 to getting that first check for 70 grand, you like, I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here. You looking at that 70 G's, like, whatever, right? Whatever that first check. Yeah. So I think I'm facing all of that for the first time. I'm facing what you can kind of say is like an overnight fame type of thing, even though I know that leading up to that I had put in years of work, but to a certain degree it can look like it was an overnight thing, right? Because it was like week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, double R, and then it just opened the floodgates to a lot of opportunities at the time.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but at this time, you're 19, 20 years old, and not only that, you are the first Asian American artist to ever be signed in the United States. Is that
so? If you break it down specifically, in terms of like, I think there's two things when people say that I guess if you want to be really detailed about it, I was probably maybe the first, I don't know if I am or not the first solo Asian artist to be signed to a major rap label. So that's one thing people say. But I know that before me, there was actually a group. Salute to them. There's a group called the Mountain Brothers. It's 3 guys. They from Philly. 3 Asian dudes from Philly, MCs. Nice. Mountain Brothers. And they had actually signed with the label already and had dropped like an album, and they had a video on BET and MTV and all of that. So to me, as Jin, that's who I saw. Okay. Yeah, so to me it's that. But I think this is where it gets a little like it's relative, because maybe to a lot of people that grew up on 106, because they weren't that much before me. They were maybe like a year or 2 before me. But what happened was, maybe, I guess to my credit, and I'm humbled and grateful about this, to a lot of people, it's not so much, if Jin technically in history is or not the first Asian signed to a label. The point is, to them, I am.
But that's what I'm getting at, because I don't think that they understood exactly what to do with you. Yeah. At the time. I mean, we're talking DMX, Locks, like the hardest in the streets.
And then here comes Jin.
You feel me? Like, so not only are you 19, 20 years old, but I have to know, like, how much of that was pre-rebuttaling and how much of that was freestyle? Because Freestyle Friday back in the day was really Freestyle Friday to me. Nowadays when they're doing it, I don't know if they still do it. They do it here and there.
Here and there.
But it's not the same. There's a lot of pre-rebuttals.
I think it was, if you ask me, I think at the time, there was a combination of both, but I would lean more towards, like, if I look at my opponents, right? So if I don't talk about the guys that I did me or after, so not Poster and even all the guys after me that ended up, because there was a long list of people that ultimately made it into the Hall of Fame, right, in the following years. But like I said, Poster was my predecessor, and then I was like the second person to do it. But for me, I think it was a combination of both. Like for me, I approached it always. I was strategic about it. I ain't gonna lie, right? And I think real battle rap nerds or real, like, forget about the nerd term, but real students of the craft, they can tell. Like guys like from Hollow, I'm talking about the Dawn to DNA to, you know, and even like Twerk and all these guys, whoever, Goods, DNA, So Khan, Diz, all of them. The real ones that really study it, they can watch an average round and they can tell, yo, that was something he just slipped in there off the top right there. And the real mastery of it is being able to do it within your rounds, which now is more common because back in the days, you wouldn't even be like that. Because it was never like a battle where it was like, yo, I got 3 rounds ready for this guy. You know what I mean? But for me, specifically in terms of the Freestyle Friday run, I wouldn't say I would prepare 30-second verses going in there. Better believe, though, leading up to each week's taping, I may have a punch or two in my head, right?
Just a random. But these
you didn't. That's the thing. Okay. You don't know your opponent. So a lot of times when you would see me in those 7 weeks, in specific moments where I said something about, like even in week 1, because that's the other thing. You only have 30 seconds. So we know that's a big shift now, too, where we're doing 4-minute rounds, right? So in 30 seconds, you really got to be punching. Ideally, you want to punch every line. You know what I mean? Even your setup should be a punch. But the point is traditionally, it's like in 30 seconds, it might be 12 bars, 12 to 14, depending on, because here's the thing. It gets so mathematical, right, that in 30 seconds, I've noticed that some people, when the clock starts and you see the little 30 on the bottom of the screen, they don't even get off their first setup till maybe 4 seconds in. And you really already blew like 4 bars right there, technically. So for me, it was always like literally as soon as Fat Man Scoop or whoever it was dropped the beat, I'm going into my first setup already, right? So I love this. This is real battle rap talk right here. And I know the people that watch this will appreciate it. But for me, I always went into it like, I got my kind of, not generic, but I got my general punches that I have, right, kind of stored here. But better believe, more often than not, as soon as I know the opponent, and usually you'll know it on the day of the taping, maybe 2 to 3 hours before you're actually standing in front of him. And it's like, all right, we're coming back from commercial in 3, 2, 1, right? So in those 2-3 hours, yeah, I'm looking at him, looking at his kicks, looking at his haircut. I'm sure and I'm hoping he's doing the same thing. And then not only that, but it was one thing when I was the challenger. Because when I went up as the challenger and I'm battling the reigning champ, Hassan, shout out to Hassan, because he had won 6 weeks and he was going for his 7th. And when I went in as the challenger, I knew that, yo, there's no rebuttaling in this. So in my 30 seconds, I gotta come for his neck. You know what I mean? And if I come for his neck, but he still outdoes me, there's nothing I could say. But at least I know I came for his neck. So that's why there was like a gamble and a strategic thing where I know I wanted to address the Asian factor, but I know that I didn't want to OD on it. Like I didn't want to all 30 seconds be like, yeah, I'm Asian and this and that and that. And then what happens if in his 30 seconds he doesn't say a damn thing about me being Asian, right? So that was the 50-50 gamble. So, but when I said the line about something like, you got 6 wins, I wonder if this will hurt. The closest you'll get to 7 is the number on his shirt. I don't know why he wore a shirt that said 7 on it. Maybe because that was his sign. He's like, I'm here for my 7th win. So this is symbolic of my 7th win. But that line to me was the one that the audience reacted to. Yeah. Because that was like maybe the 3rd punchline if we were to like break it down like that. So the first punchline, crowd was kind of like, Second punchline, crowd was like, But you could literally hear the audio in it that by that was the 3rd punchline. The crowd was like, oh, right? So I don't know what the kids would call it these days. Maybe that was the first haymaker or whatever, right? So then from there, I kind of weave back and forth and, then following that, I hit him with the, one joke about rice or karate, NYPD in Chinatown searching for your body, right? Ooh. Like, so, I mean, if you put it in the context of like Summer Madness now, that might not be like the most mind-blowing, but in the context of 106 in Park and that era, and also, yeah, like I guess if I had to remove myself from myself and watch it as an audience member, whether it was in the audience at the studio or at home, and you had never seen an Asian kid rap before, I could imagine that being pretty like, oh shit, like, did he just say that? You know what I mean? So, and then lo and behold, his first line was something like, you know, they call me Hassan, I have you in BET hooking up fried wontons. and that's the moment where the crowd's like, you know what I mean? Like, if
we heard it before.
Also because of what I had said in my round, right? So that's like battle rap 101 right there. The whole like, how do you diffuse? Yeah, how do you diffuse it? How do you do it tastefully? But the main question you asked about how much of it is off top, how much of it is kind of pre-constructed. I'll be honest and say that, to me, the strongest moments was when I rebutted off the top. Because I was saying that was week 1. So I couldn't really rebuttal much. Because, I mean, I'm going first. But definitely 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I tried to make it a regular thing. Because I know that, this is what the audience will eat up. And this is what the judges will eat up.
You know, I asked you that because, you know, nowadays it's like...
Yeah.
These guys are 30 years old. Like, you were coming up with this stuff off the top of your head at 19, 20 years old. And to this day, if you went in a battle with that, you would win.
15 minutes of fame.
You are now listening to 15 Minutes of Fame Radio.
Let's go. 15 minutes of fame radio.
Now stepping into 15 minutes of fame radio. Yeah.
That's my motherfucking jam right there.